That's an interesting point actually, because what I was going to mention is
Yeah.
the reason. Well, you mentioned about new ideas and how we could progress it, but you see people actually recently attacking new ideas. For example, well, an example of it would be, you see Kanye West creating Yeezys, and there's so many new designs, and obviously people want innovation, but when the innovation comes, no one wants it because it's so different, and they attack the new ideas. In the same way, if there's as you said, you were in a tribe, and then there's a new tribe, they have completely new ideas. You'd want to reject it because it's not what you're used to, and you only grow when you're out your comfort zone, and people just don't. They want growth until it actually comes time to grow.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's just down to people don't like change because staying how you are is predictable. You can work with it.
But it's less where you grow.
It's less stressful mentally.
Yeah,
and it's the fact that people just want stress-free
lives.
That's
how lazy. Yeah, that's how lazy humans have become. Or maybe we haven't, and we've just gained this false sense that people have become lazy. But maybe people have been like it since the beginning of days and would rather stay hitting each other with rocks. Yeah. Because we don't know, because we weren't there. That's the thing. People can say all they want, but we'll never know for sure.
Yeah, well,
when it comes to
you can go.
yeah, Z speaks.
Yeah, Z, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Okay, so I was just saying that you said something about being lazy. I think laziness is just a body reaction.
Yeah.
And you feel lazy when you're so worked up and you're kind of fed up of something repetitive, right? And you don't want to see it again. And when it's happening to you or around you again and again, you go like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I want to sleep. I want to rest now because it's happening, and I can't help it.
Because it's happening every single day, and there's nothing new.
So it's just I don't know, it's some sort of, reaction. And the thing is that I wanted to bring up some point actually.
Mm-hmm. I think people are lazy because they get bored of things, and the reason they get bored of things is because, well, there's nothing new going on, and it's just a recurring cycle. People need to get so tired of their own things that they will just go out and innovate and create completely new things.
Yeah, well,
but the reason why the ideas are rejected is because not everyone's ready for that change, I think. Some people living in the past, as we said previously, it's all to do with how you grew up and your mentality, because people are at different stages of their life. That's why so many generations disagree with involvement of technology, for example.
I was going to say, back in the times when humans lived in the world and stuff, they would be under constant stress for survival, if they were attacked by another tribe or another animal, constantly thinking about food and warmth and shelter. I think people get lazy when they don't have this constant stress. They feel like they don't have to do anything because they can.
That's why you only grow
survive
outside
easily.
your comfort zone.
Yeah, so I think that's why. Yeah, you do grow outside of your comfort zone because you are putting stress on yourself.
You're constantly thinking of new things, otherwise doing the same thing.
Which means you can't be lazy.
Yeah. People take it as some kind of risk now to, create something new and innovate or try a new thing and step outside your comfort zone. But I think the bigger risk is actually staying inside your comfort zone and not innovating than taking the risk of innovation.
Because it puts you so far behind everyone else.
Staying in one place is a bigger risk than moving forward and failing, because failing is never actually failing in disguise. You only have to be right once.
Yeah.
No, of course not. I mean, look, they're really, I'll say that they're really, what do you call that? What's that word? Competitive people, okay? But they're stuck in this chain, of the system.
Of trying to be better than everyone else.
Yeah, they're
constantly.
They are working so hard to get out to dominate, not dominate, sorry, that's the wrong word, but like to get out of that system and kind of create their own identity and bring up their idea and kind of create their own empire. Everyone has this dream, by the way. Like I do, you guys would have that too. Okay, so like as a human, you have that dream that you want to create a movement. Okay,
you want to
it's that self-consolation.
So, but because of life conditions, you're kind of stuck, in this chain that you have to make a living, you have to pay your bills or to survive.
Yeah,
right?
I think that does depend. Yeah. That does really depend, because you create your own reality in your head, as we said earlier. You can have it be whatever you want, and the reason why the vast majority of people,
Right.
quote unquote, would fail in life and don't create something of their own, as you just said, is because they're too scared to stay in line. But then again, imagine where the world would be if everyone always stayed in line. It always takes like someone to step outside of a line. What would life be if everyone did stay in line? It would just be very boring at the end of the day.
Just going back to what Bernard said about risking everything and losing everything. One of my my favorite quotes is, when you lose everything, you don't lose everything because you still have the experience. You start from experience.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Yeah, that's the most vital
lose
thing.
that.
Yeah, it's something you can't lose. That's why all these millionaires say if they somehow lost something in like, a day, they'd probably be a millionaire in the next few months or within the same year, because it's all to do with mentality and how, because you can have, everything, but you can have all the money, but if you don't have the knowledge, then it's pretty useless.
Absolutely.
It's not so
and it's also the people around you. It's also the people around you, because if people are going to tell you can't do it, then you'll start believing, oh, if you, cut them off and it's you versus you, and you could achieve I think anything is possible. There's no limits to what can be done and what can't be done. It's all mind limitations, and that's why loads of people don't understand and attack ideas.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that you said it. Now, let's look at this thing. For example, people, one nation that is not so advanced, like let's just say that there's a country, underdeveloped country, right? And then there are countries like, they're kind of dominating, they're driving the whole world. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to name them, but like, everyone knows. But here's a fact that the countries that are underprivileged, they would have this, fear-driven mindset. Okay, every person from that country, from those countries, would have this doubtful ideas. Like, for example,
for sure,
if you're kind of creating an empire, if you're creating a business, if you want to be known, whatever we do, it's for fame. That's deep down underneath somewhere. But my point is that whenever someone from an underprivileged country, tries to do something, he would have a lot of doubts. He would have a lot of fears, like, okay, if I do this, what would be the consequences? What if I get beaten on the way? What if I get hurt? What if I get murdered on the way? Because I'm trying something, special, something bigger, because I want to get on top, right? He would have a lot of ideas. He or she would have a lot of, doubts, actually, as compared to a person who is coming from a strong country, right? He wouldn't have such a thing. He would say that he wouldn't even know those things, right? Like any hurdles, any obstacles, like, he would get banned, he would get dismissed, and he would get prisoned for even speaking up against the government, let's say. Okay, so like these are the differences, right? So what I'm saying is, like, we have this social hierarchy, right? And everything is somewhat dependent on that. Even if you don't want to be part of it, you are still part of it. It's affecting your decisions all the time.
That's really interesting you say that, because that's actually something I've experienced firsthand. For example, a good friend of mine that has been on a podcast twice now, Ray, he lives in America, and a lot more things are possible there than they are in the UK. And then I grew up in Poland in the early 2000s. Obviously, that was quite an underdeveloped country because it's post-communist, not for its own fault. But so people's mentality, is obviously, again, it's how people have grown up and what they've become come to see. In America, it's quite usual for unusual things to happen. That's why there's the American dream. But in a country such as Poland, where people don't often step out of line because they're ingrained, like, you need to go to university, get this job, become a doctor, and then you'll do well. There's not a lot of people stepping out of line and trying to push it forward. And then again, the rock bottom is a perfect foundation at the same time. So obviously it depends on your outlook, because you can make it, let it break you or make you. You can cry and say, oh, I can't, because this is the opportunity I'm presented with. Or you can go and create the opportunities yourself. You can be the person that creates it and moves it all forward.
One thing I think about a lot as well, that it really annoys me about people's perception of like third world countries, is that they are like less intelligent people, whereas as they're just normal people, they do have the same capacity as anyone anywhere else in the world. It's just the opportunities and the support system they have around them. So they're not less intelligent because they have got the capacity. Like if you brought
Yeah.
everyone from their countries to our countries, I reckon they'd do just as well, or even
One
better.
one thing you can't take away from people is, the mind and the creativity they have. You can, strip around all their resources, which help quite a lot, but you can't take creativity from people ever, which is, people just don't realize that at the end of the day, because it all goes back to the system of hierarchy we were talking about. Some people see them as below them just purely because they're living in a different place and they do things differently. But if it wasn't for that, then everyone has equal opportunity, because we're all born equal, but it's society and the places we grow up around that make the differences.
Yeah, but it's not the people in more developed countries are more, would you say, more developed, like mentally, to be more intelligent, because they have the same mind.
Yeah, of
We're all
course,
humans. We all have the same mind, so they have the
It's just the
exact same
conditioning.
capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you said,
conditions
just the
probably.
conditioning. Under the correct education, they could be as smart as anyone else, which would therefore make them a more developed country.
I mean, education doesn't even make you a smart person. There's a difference between getting good grades and actually being intelligent. Because I've met a vast range of people who are good academically, but they're just not
learning the
smart in real life.
learning the right stuff though. So like, if people in third world countries learned engineering stuff, they could vastly improve their living and make them into a developing country. I don't think they should be shunned and forgotten about just because they don't have the support system.
Yeah,
There's so much genius in everywhere, because people overlook it so much.
It's interesting because not everywhere they have strong educational curriculum, right? I mean, you can say that if someone is a top grader, let's say, and he's intelligent. No, he can be. I mean, you can conform to the framework you have in your country, but that doesn't make you intelligent, because maybe their curriculum is like way too old and outdated.
Outdated.
It doesn't make you strong, actually, because there are many people, and that brings me back to the subject of art, because these people who are educating themselves on the street, and they're finding different sources, different mentors to educate themselves, it's an art.
Yeah.
Like, they know how to go around, information. What
Street
information
smarts
to pick.
rather than
It's actually, I think,
traditional.
how you use the information you have rather than what information you have, because you can read one book, but if you use everything from that book, you can be smarter than the person who's read 10 books and doesn't implement a single thing.
Yeah.
And it's also, grades at school are just to tell your future employer or what job you go into how easily you can learn.
Yeah.
It's not saying that this is what you know. It's saying this is how good he is at learning, to then learn how to do your job better.
Yeah, well, this is why loads of people have started going against school, because it's making everyone's preaching individuality. You should be yourself, until it comes to stepping out of line and actually doing the thing you want to do and being yourself. They put you in the same school system as everyone else to like mash you up, and then basically you come out as the perfect worker. We've been following tasks and doing. That's why loads of for example, we have a business in school. It's not even based off the business skills. It's based off the exam technique. And I mean, should it be? I don't think it should, because you're going there to learn a subject, not how to answer exam techniques. And that just shows to like a future employer. It's very university focused that, you can do this and you can learn like this. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Especially you look at some of the world's richest people like Elon and, Jeff, they all said, it has nothing to do with it. It might be an indication someone can do good things, but I mean, it's still a definitive factor for sure. I think it's pretty ridiculous to assume it would be. I think they're two very separate things.
That's the thing. I mean, I graduated in 2012, and if I go back to my university now, and if I look for the same, degree course, their
Hmm.
whole course outline has changed. It's
Yeah,
nothing like what I went through.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the whole thing has changed, right?
That's why you
Whatever
have
I
to be
studied
careful.
is gone.
Yeah, you have to be careful who you take advice from, because obviously the older generations, who maybe our parents, grandparents,
Yeah,
they'll be suggesting
yeah,
us one thing based on their experiences, but times have evolved and
yeah.
changed. So you just got to be very careful and take it with a pinch of salt, because if you do what everyone else is doing, your results will be the same as everyone else's, because you won't do anything different, will
I'm,
you, to get
I'm,
different
a,
results?
Yeah.
I'm of the mindset that everything you learn can be used in some way, in a beneficial way, even if it is advice, like old advice that's not really useful
There's
to you
universal advice
currently.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you then know not to do that or not to use that advice. You're still
Yeah,
learning
because
in
for
that
sure. For
way.
example, like one takeaway thing we can take from all the generations giving us out of date advice is when we're their age, not to give out of date advice, because time, we'll at least know and realize hopefully that times have progressed, and you know, it's just very very hard to describe and figure out who you can actually take advice from, because people that are successful now will tell you something completely different from someone who was successful 20 years ago. But it all depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, okay, what they can share with us is like, of course, I mean, there's this gap between, two, or maybe like, let's say, if you're talking about your father or mother, if you're talking about yourself, okay, it's just one generation seemingly, but that in terms of the change between
Oh,
educational, curriculum, it's a
so
lot
much
of
changed.
generations. Like
Yeah, so much has changed.
yeah. So maybe your parents got married much later in time when they were too old, maybe, and then they
Hmm.
had you after so many years. But then, if you look at the average, generation gap, it's like there are like loads of years in between, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, everyone has their own,
conclusions.
yeah. I mean, they have their own. Uh, perception over marriage and having a child.
Hmm.
Like, after these many years, we need to have a child. After these many years, we have to get married, blah, 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 right? So everyone has their own rules, and we are
Yeah,
implementing it. Like, we have a girlfriend, and then, if it works out, we get married after 5 years or 7 years down the line. And then we're like another 5 or 7 years, we're going to have one child. Okay. So already we are like, according to you, there could be one generation gap, but like according to other people, there could be two generation gaps in between,
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
Yeah. So things change across all these
yeah.
years,
It
right?
depends how fast the country's developing too, because if it's
Absolutely.
like a very
Yeah.
quickly developing countries, loads of new things will be learned in a short
Yeah.
space of time. So might be even 5 generations